Today is April the 6th, 2021, and today we are here with Anette Carlisle. She's an incumbent running again for the AC Board of Regents. Anette, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Dan. I very much appreciate being here.
Let's start off by telling the voters a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into the position that you're running for.
I grew up in Borger, Texas, and about an hour from here for most of your listeners or watchers. And I moved off to Texas Tech, got my undergraduate and my master's there in zoology, went to Houston, met my husband in high school, my future husband in high school in Borger, and he's Dr. Taylor Carlisle. So because of his medical training, we moved, he went to medical school in Houston at Baylor, and then we moved to East Tennessee, and then to New Orleans, and then 33 years ago, we moved back to Amarillo. And I have, since I've been here, worked on a number of things in the community, but my real passion is education. I spent 19 years on the school board, raised 3 kids in the school district here, and then 6 years ago, ran and got elected to my first term at the AC Board, Amarillo College Board, and it's a good fit, and I hope to get elected to another one.
Very good. So you have a degree in zoology.
I do.
So what does a zoologist do?
I did a lot of chromosomal research and collection of mammals across Mexico and worked on ones from South America to just learn more about the science of the animals and just their interconnectedness to the ecosystem and all. And it's a systems level approach that I did. And so when I came here, that's kind of the way I think. So in almost 20 years ago, I started something as a volunteer in lots of different organizations. I could see that the systems weren't really connected. And so I started something called Panhandle 2020. It's a collective impact organization, which that term didn't exist when we started it, but it pulled all the leadership from all the different institutions, organizations, from churches, from businesses to work together around common issues. And the 2 things that we've really focused on the most over the years is the issue of educational attainment and poverty, and trying to build systems of support to move people through education and out of poverty and to improve our alignment and access to education.
So what causes poverty?
A lot of times it's, and I've learned so much, and I almost hate to say it, but it's like I tell people, poor people didn't used to be my thing. It was education. But education, the biggest barrier to educational attainment is poverty. And so to address that, we really had to focus on that issue and learn a lot about it. And we brought in an expert, Dr. Donna Beagle, who grew up in generational poverty. And a lot of times it's, luck of who you're born, where you're born, how you're born, or there's different kinds of poverty. There's the generational poverty. There's situational poverty that I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of right now because of the pandemic and the economic challenges. It's also not having access to the opportunities that I had access to, that my kids had access to. There's just a lot of different challenges that our families have in our community. And when you started looking at the numbers, we're sitting in Potter County right now. When I went on the school board, less than 1 in 10 lived below the poverty level. A few years ago, it was 1 in 3. And so it's a big growth in poverty levels, and the way out is education. So I've really been a passionate supporter of anything we can do to get more kids into college, into training programs, and to just opportunities that they may not have had because their parents really didn't understand it. They didn't go to school. They didn't go to college, rather. And if you're a first-generation student in one of our local schools, you may not understand that. But we've worked both at the K-12 level and community college level and community level to really improve access and opportunity for everyone around us.
So now you said, 20 years ago, 1 in 10 were in poverty?
In the 2000 census. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, 1 in 10 people in Amarillo,
County,
were in Potter County, were in poverty. But
live
today,
below the poverty level. Yeah.
And how is that defined? Just income?
Yeah, household income or individual income, depending on which number you're looking at. But it really takes about twice poverty level to get by. The poverty levels were developed in the 60s, and they really haven't changed how they look at that. But it takes, for a family of 4, I want to say the poverty level's right around 25,000, but it takes closer to 50 for a family of 4 to get by, pay their health care, all the typical costs that we all have to pay.
So we define poverty by the amount of money they make, not the amount of money they spend.
It's, money they make.
But 20 years later, it's went up 3 times, right?
Well, 10 years later, it had gone
Or
up
in 10 years.
almost 3 times, yeah.
But we don't know what it is because the most recent census data isn't available yet.
Correct. And when I went on the school board, the free and reduced lunch level, that's how the students who have access to governmental supported meals, that's 185% of poverty. So not quite twice to qualify for reduced, or 100% to qualify for free. It was around 50%, and now it's about 70% in AISD.
So whatever we're doing isn't working.
That part's not, but we have improved through the work of Panhandle 2020 and our partnerships. We have increased our levels of educational attainment. So ultimately, I know that will impact those individuals to earn living wages at a much higher level than they might have.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my mind around how this all works poverty-wise. Of course, I grew up poor. We didn't know what money was, but we didn't think we were poor.
When I was young, I had more opportunities to help myself. I had the cost of education. I worked my way through college by working in the dorm or working on campus.
And you didn't have internet.
And I didn't have
How
internet.
How did you survive?
But I also didn't have the same level of tuition that we have now. And when tuition got deregulated, it really changed the cost. Although I will say Amarillo College is a very low cost compared to a university.
Well, it's my understanding, and I've learned this in doing these interviews, that if you have a child that graduates high school in Amarillo, that they can go to Amarillo College for the first 2 years for free. 60
hours if they graduate from Amarillo ISD with, I believe it's a B average and a high attendance, decent attendance, right? And they can. And it's a community partnership between Amarillo College, Amarillo ISD, the Amarillo Economic Development Corporation, and the Amarillo Area Foundation.
I mean, to me, that is a huge deal.
It's huge.
I mean, that ought to swell the numbers of Amarillo College. But I don't know that a lot of people does everybody know that?
We do our best to let them know. We work with the local high schools to let them know. Certainly the foundation is promoting it and has, I think we're in our 3rd year, maybe even into the beginning of our 4th, would be this fall. It's a wonderful opportunity. And everybody out there in AISD, take advantage of it, because if your kids are anywhere near college age, it will save you bukus of money.
Well, it sounds like Amarillo College has some really good things that they're doing. Do you want to elaborate on what some of those issues and things that the Amarillo College is working on?
Sure. And some of it grew out of the work of Panhandle 2020 because Amarillo College has been a part of that from the beginning. And we kicked off in 2003 of that organization with our state demographer up here telling us the trends and projections. And the projections were that we would become poorer and less educated. And so we looked at each other and decided that's not what we wanted to do. So how could we work together to improve that? So we've built on a lot of these things. We created something called a P16 Council, the Texas Panhandle P16 Council, and it's partnership between all the school districts in the region and all the community colleges in West Texas A&M. And we really work to align our systems because K-12 and community college and four-year universities are really three different systems. But, the community college would blame it on the school, K-12, and vice versa. Or, the 4 years and say, you're not sending them prepared. So we worked together to make sure we were sending, them prepared for what they needed to be able to do once they got to Amarillo College, West Texas A&M, or some other university elsewhere. And so Amarillo College specifically, we have begun a real focus, for the past 6 years, really on meeting the needs of our low-income students. We've focused on building an advocacy and resource center called our ARC, where they can have access to social services if they qualify, to food pantry, and to clothing closet, and also to emergency aid if needed. And it's really helped improve our retention and completion rate. We've changed so many of our coursework classes, instead of being the 16-week typical course class semester that we're familiar with, to 8-week courses. And that's really helped fit the need of our student body. Our student body it's not all 18-year-olds. It's 26-year-olds on average, a little more heavily female, more heavily non-Anglo than Anglo, and over half qualify for Pell Grants, so low income. And so it's really trying to meet the needs of the population that we actually serve. I serve on something called the Hope Center Board out of Philadelphia that's run by Dr. Sarah Goldrick-Robb. And her focus is on food and housing insecure students. And so they've learned from Amarillo College, we've learned from them to really see what are the barriers our students have. Our theory of change for the past 6 years for this particular strategic plan was to develop, to meet the needs of our students by removing a life barrier, because most of their barriers are not academic, by in a collapsed time frame for those 8-week courses, because they only have to focus on 2 courses per 8 weeks. They only have to buy 2 books, those kind of things. And they're usually working. So they're working other jobs and trying to be a full-time student. And then in a culture of caring, so that we understand that they have these challenges. Not, saying if they're falling asleep in our class, kicking them out the door. It's maybe asking what's going on, and they're saying, well, I just got off my night shift, and so I'm falling asleep. So, of course, this past year's been a little different with the COVID response that we've had to create, but it's improved our completion rate from in the teens to 58% as of last year. And so we don't know what this next year is going to be, but we hope it improves, although, again, the COVID probably has hurt us there.
Serve coffee. Keep them awake. So so you've gone to quarter instead of semesters.
Well, you fit 2 8 weeks in a semester. So you've got 2 in the fall and 2 in the spring, and then you've got summer. So, and
is that giving people? Have you had any feedback from the students on that? Is that working for the students?
They mostly prefer it by far, and and it's improved our full-time students, because Typically, if you're a part-time student at a community college, the odds of you finishing your certification or transfer are pretty slim. But if you're a full-time student, that option or that likelihood increases significantly. And so they've really, we've increased in double digits our number of students who are full-time.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So what is some of the other things that Amarillo College is doing to benefit the community?
Amarillo College is going to play a huge role in getting the community back on its feet after COVID, I think. We're really working with our local businesses. We've got something called the Adams Earn and Learn program, which is to try to get all of our students into a real-life paid internship with some of the funds that the grant or that the donation that gave us from the Adams Family Foundation, and some of the CARES Act funding will be used for that, is my understanding, and to get those students in a real-life work situation so they can learn, the soft skills better, that they can learn, do I really like to do this? That's something. And a lot of times when you build those kind of partnerships, and we did it in K-12 at the Pursuing Real Opportunities program too, where those students got to know the people at the fire station, at the police station, at some Lone Star machinery or whatever. They end up getting hired by those companies. So it's really building those pathways for success for living wage jobs, so they'll be better taxpayers down the road.
Well, I'd rather hire somebody young that's willing to learn, than I would an older person that's set in their ways and won't listen. So I think a lot of us business owners would leap at the opportunity to hire young people that want to learn.
Well, I bet you can call AC and find out more about the Adams Learn and Earn program. We're also, we've got a new No Excuses Strategic Plan 2025. The last one was No Excuses 2020. And so it was a 5-year plan. I said 6, but it was 5. And in 2025, we're really pushing into this. We're really trying to match our pathways with labor workforce needs. We've worked with workforce all along. We've had a person on our campus from workforce to work with these students. We've had folks from WT on our campus, most of the time to work for transfers to the programs at WT. What else have we done? We've got the Innovation Outpost that we're going to redo the downtown area, the downtown campus, to really try to meet the needs of our businesses, our local businesses, to help them navigate these changing times. I mean, who Amarillo, Texas was 20 years ago is not who it's going to be this year or 20 years from now, and it's really a global market now. So we've got to prepare our businesses and our students to be, ready to meet the workforce needs in a global market. But that doesn't mean they have to leave Amarillo. They can live here and work elsewhere, as some of my kids are right now. So,
well, they may leave, but most of them will come back.
I did.
Yeah, the rest of the world is not what people think it is. Amarillo's got some really good things, I think, going for it.
I do too. I love it.
But the most important of all is its people,
mm-hmm.
and then the people that those people create. So we need to take care of them and educate them and produce good citizens.
Agreed.
People who vote and be engaged. That's my pet peeve. It just bothers me that the women fought 100 years ago for the right to vote and went through all kinds of problems and sacrifice, and then today they don't vote. It just bothers me.
I vote. I try to get everybody I know to vote. So
Well, I heard something about they're building a new studio for they're going to be teaching cinema or something.
We're partnering. That's part of what's happening at the Innovation Outpost. I didn't even begin to talk about our coding courses and our technology and coding classes, and I've taken some of those, so I'm involved in that. At that level, we have something called the VFX, which is special effects in film and commercials, and it's all the media is merging. So students can learn how to do those special effects that are so necessary or expected in movies and commercials and things. And then we've also partnered with a company called Sharpened Iron Studios. And so they've taken over a portion of our downtown campus and are remodeling it to their own needs and building a sound stage. So they're going to shoot movies here. We're going to have classes where we partner with them for our students to be working on some of the film editing and the media production and probably set design and costume design and all those kind of things.
Well, I guess video's kind of where everything's headed.
It's where we are right now, right?
Well, that's why we're doing it, because what I've found is people will click and watch a video before they'll listen to something.
Well, speaking of listening to something, if folks are more interested in more of the work I've done and people I've gotten to meet and work across the country with, I have a podcast, Anette on Education, one N in Anette, and it's been going for a year and a half now, and it's a weekly podcast, and I work with a lot of different organizations across the state and some across the nation, and I've just trying to share the good work that all these people are doing. And
so how do people find that?
Anette on Education, you can find it on my website, which is AnetteCarlisle.com, or you can find it on Apple, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, most of the different, Google, most of the different platforms that provide podcasts.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Good. Well, what we'll do here is we'll put it on our PotterCountyGOP.com website, and then we'll send it out to all the voters via text. I'm not particularly interested in having a podcast because I don't think anybody could care less about what I think. I'm just trying to inform the voters.
And most of my format is interviewing folks. Mm-hmm. But not everybody has the same, I've worn a lot of different hats over time, with my science background, K-12, governance and school finance and all the legislative stuff that goes with that. Community college, that I'm on the state level Community College Association of Texas Trustees. I'm on another nonprofit board called Every Texan, and it's policy focused on helping every Texan.
So what do you think the biggest issue facing Amarillo College is right now?
Right now, it's getting students to commit to come in the doors and the funding that goes with that, as well as funding from the state level. It's no surprise that COVID has hit people upside the head in their lifestyle, in their jobs, and in their education journey. And if you're a 26-year-old with 2 kids at home and you have a job that you need to go to and you still have, this past year, had kids at home, how did you homeschool, or remote school them, at the same time that you went to your job, or if you lost your job, and then pay for college? All those things, and all those things are the challenges that our students are facing. And so it's anything we can do to help them get through the door and stay there and do their, till they complete. The stories are just heartbreaking and heartwarming all at the same time. We've had increased challenges with mental health issues this past year. So that is certainly a concern. When I first came on the board in May, the end of that session, it was a legislative session year, we expected a $500,000 cut in our budget from the legislature, and we got a $3.5 million cut just at the last minute. And it's really hard to plan for that giant of, cut in our budget, which at the time was probably not even 60 million. Now we're over 70 million budget. But we really didn't have a lot of support, even though we're really hugely important in the education ecosystem and in the job training ecosystem at the time. But we've grown that at the state level, and certainly our local representatives and senator understand the importance of community college. It's going to be an interesting legislative year session because of COVID, because of the weather challenges in February. There's going to be a lot of costs and a lot of need, and we'll see how the budget works out. We're asking the state to keep community colleges hold harmless, so that because of this temporary dip in enrollment, some of the colleges have had really low levels of enrollment, and yet they can't restaff all of a sudden. But those students will come back. At Amarillo College, we've had about a 6% decrease in enrollment, whereas the state, I think, is more like 10 or over. Some states are in the 20s enrollment loss at colleges or community colleges. And moving forward with that challenge is difficult.
Well, as a zoologist, you probably have some insight into virology and virus, where they come from, and what a pandemic is. Is that right?
I do. And in fact, I'm married to an infectious disease doctor, Dr. Taylor Carlisle, and my most popular podcast was from last April, and I just re-released it last Sunday, or 2 Sundays ago, the end of March, on a history of pandemics.
So what is the actual definition of a pandemic?
A widespread public health issue. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be viral, but it could be a bacterial or whatever, something that...
Well, my understanding is that a pandemic is where you have a widespread health issue that 7.5% of the population dies.
I don't know.
And we weren't anywhere near that. We were like 0.03%, which is less than a normal flu. So why did they so react the way that they did to this virus?
I've never heard the numbers tied to the definition of a pandemic. It's just, how many it affects across a region. I mean, bubonic plague, you had 30% death back in medieval Europe. Why they reacted, there were a lot of unknowns. I mean, we still, as my husband says, it'll be 5 or 6 years before we really know the science on should we have done this, should we have done that. And then some of it we'll never know because we did this or we didn't do that, so we'll never know exactly where it might have gone.
So do they think it was a man-made virus, or did it come from bats?
I don't know who they are, but my husband...
Well, the CDC is the one that thinks they're in charge of everything.
My husband thinks it's called a zoonotic illness. It's from animals, and it's not unusual. Most of the the bird flus come from bird populations somewhere. A lot of them in East Asia or Southeast Asia. The SARS one before, I think, was tied to bats. And bats is what I used to work on when I did research in grad school. But again, you're not sure if the information coming out of China is accurate. So I know we've sent people over there. If they found out facts or not, I haven't paid enough attention to it recently to know. I read it all right at the beginning, but kind of get
just know
tired.
it came from China.
I'm sorry?
We just basically know that it came from China.
We know it came from that area, yeah.
But when we look at all the deaths from 17, 18, 19, and 20, there's the total deaths have not increased from all causes.
From all causes. If you look at flu deaths, my husband predicted at the beginning that this would probably be like a bad flu. Mm-hmm. And it's been worse than a bad flu if you look at the numbers over the past 10 years.
Yeah, my understanding, the 2010 flu, we had more deaths, and the 68 flu, we had tremendous number. 4 million people died of that.
Well, if I'd known I'm going to be quizzed on this, I would have looked at the data, but I didn't. But I really I don't think we've had deaths comparable to this past year, COVID, SARS-2, I think that's what they call it now, since 1918, since the 1918-1919 flus.
I don't know. I mean, most of the people have died, had pre-existing conditions, and they're attributed to this. It's
true.
I'd like to know the facts. You hear different things from different people, but it seems like there's a concerted effort to make this into something that it's not.
Well, and the concern certainly for folks of color, it's higher morbidity, and we don't know why that is. If even for folks without known pre-existing conditions, there's concern there. And again, it may be 5 years, 10 years. We're really just now learning more details about the original SARS, according to my husband, in the scientific literature.
Yeah, well, that'd be interesting. Probably should talk to your husband. It'd be interesting to know the truth. I read somewhere a while back that the common cold did not exist in the United States until the mid-'60s.
Can't answer that.
And that came from China. It's a coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, go listen to my podcast.
So kids in the 50s didn't get colds. I'm jealous.
I was pretty young in the 50s, so I don't know if I remember getting a cold or not. But go listen to that podcast. I think you'll enjoy it.
I'll look it up. That'll be interesting. So what do you see for the future of Amarillo and Amarillo College working together? Where do you see Amarillo in 10 years and Amarillo College's role and where it's at?
I think we have some challenges ahead as a community, as a region. That's the reason I started Panhandle 20 years ago almost. And it seems so far away. 2020 seems so far away. Now it's the other way.
Now you need to do Panhandle 2050.
Exactly. We've lost a lot of our industry base. What we really need to do is diversify our economy even more. We need to create high-tech, hubs and centers and knowledge base. Just hiring people who can teach coding at Amarillo College is a challenge. I mean, we struggle with that because they can be in the industry world and make a whole lot more money than they can at a community college. We have lots of high tech here, but we need to grow that. And I'm excited about the work at the Innovation Outpost between our films and our VFX and our coding, and just really trying to explore new things. Not everybody needs a 4-year degree. Mm-hmm. And when I grew up, that was just beat into my head that everybody needs a 4-year degree, and that's what you do, and that's what I did. And I'm glad I did it. But not everybody needs that. And so really to be, for families, parents to be open to their students to maybe get a certification or a skill at a community college, whether it's in Amarillo or somewhere else, or a specialty trade school. Career and tech industries are viable options for anyone. I'm excited about us working together with AISD in partnering with Amtech. Of course, Jay Barrett, the principal of the future Amtech, is turning from ACAL to Amtech when it moves over to the Hastings remodeled building. They'll have a bunch of stuff that really will partner well with Amarillo College, and they can work with us and we can work with them. And Jay Barrett's a fellow regent. He's a fellow regent at Amarillo College and just a wonderful resource. And the more of that we can do to connect to other schools, to each other, to industry, to share the knowledge base that we have, to share the skill sets that we have, and to think outside the box and really say, what could Amarillo be? We've got a whole lot of agricultural, efforts here in this region, and certainly WT. Could we be a huge biotech community? I think we could. Could we be a renewable energy hub? Yeah, I think we could, because we have a lot of the renewable energies available here. But just thinking along those lines and herding students into those programs where that's, energy is huge in the future. Biotech is huge in the future. Augmented reality and virtual reality skills are going to be so big in the future. And they're going to be big part of education too.
But they still need plumbers, and we still need carpenters, and we still need electricians, and we still need heating and air technicians. And
we offer all those.
So to me, if people will, as a young person, gain a skill, whether it's building cabinets or plumbing, or they can never take that away, and you always have that to fall back on. I just think that what we don't realize is that we all live in properties. No matter how high tech we get, people still have to have a place to live, and all those buildings, apartment buildings and homes, have systems. So we need to be bringing up people and help them realize that they can make a really good living, and possibly, as time goes on, a much better living doing those skills that we all need, because you'll have so much competition in the coding and the high tech that maybe those jobs won't pay near as much.
Well, I think you've got to find your own path as a student on what
you have to do what you're interested in.
Well, or at least what you might be willing to be interested in, and have some skills, or some aptitude for it. But certainly, and that's, a big part of what community college provide are those career and technical skills. And that's what I'm talking about, for parents to recognize those are viable options. And, gosh, there was a great need for all those things in February all across the state of Texas. But we've really I think we've got to dream big. I think that's part of it, but I think we can dream big and really create even more opportunity for more people.
Well, there's plenty of opportunity. It's just all that we can do is provide people with the opportunity, and it's up to them to take it. Mm-hmm. So you can't force them to take it.
No, you can't. But I know I entered the world with a lot more opportunity than some of the students we've got at Amarillo College and in our K-12 system. And my passion has been to try to build systems that create that opportunity that maybe they weren't born with.
So we want to create the opportunity and then encourage people to take advantage of it.
And give them the skills through the education.
Right. Well, you want to let the voters know how they can get a hold of you and say your website once again and your podcast?
Sure. Again, it's Anette Carlisle with one N, and it's Annette on Education. My website's AnnetteCarlisle.com. They want a yard sign. There's a yard sign link there. There's a campaign link there as well. I'm just asking folks to vote for the candidate of your choice. I hope I am. I think the experience I bring, to the table at Amarillo College is valuable. Huge focus on policy and legislation, and what's doing right for kids. I raised 3 boys here, and they all went through the public school system. They all moved off, and I thought never to come home, but at least for a year, we've had 2 of them come back to town because California, between the fires and COVID, they came home, and I don't know if they'll be able to stay home, but we're enjoying them while they're here. So yeah, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on sort of on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. If you are hunting me, you can find me. So.
Well, very good. Well, we appreciate you coming by, and good luck.
Thank
you. Might tell the voters real quick on the AC Board of Regents, you have 3 votes.
On AC Board of Regents, we have 3 openings, and there's 6 people running. So the top 3 vote getters will take those 3 seats. There will be no runoff, but we have the cumulative voting system.
Right.
And since we have 3 votes or 3 seats up, you have 3 votes. You can vote all 3 on me, none on me, split them up 1, 2, or 1, 1, and 1. Sure, I'll take all 3 votes of anybody's.
I think a lot of people, that's a little confusing to them because it's not normal.
It is.
So and hopefully we're going to get more voters to turn out this time. So we want new voters. And if you're not used to it, you can go to our website at pottercountygop.com and you can get a sample ballot so you can see how that's going to look.
That's great.
So you can check, like, if you want to vote for Annette all 3 times and give her all 3 votes, you can just check the boxes 3 times, 3 separate boxes. Or you can vote for her and 2 other people.
Right. The election is May 1st, and early voting, as you know, starts April 19th.
Yep.
So if you need help getting to the polls, I'm sure there are organizations that'll help you get there.
Yeah, we'll take them.
All right, great. And I know they've changed the voting locations in the past few years.
We'll have a link to all those too.
Great. On
our website, and I'll probably be sending out messages to people, letting them know where their polling places are.
Great. That's good. That's good help.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, it really helps people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've worked at polls before as a poll worker, poll watcher, and folks they come in without anything, without information, or the wrong one, and it's just heartbreaking to send them away. So, get educated ahead of time.
It's all about education in the end.
It is.
All right, Annette. Well, we appreciate it and appreciate all the work you've done on the Board of Regents, and good luck.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Dan.